Welcome, 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 everybody. My name is April, and as you all know, my spirits and I together, we are called Australia Astoundance. Welcome to the Conspiracies podcast. Today, we are going to talk about Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy and the dog, and what really happened here. Spirit had a lot to say. I know that there are already some things out there in the news. People are speculating things. It started off by people saying that it was carbon monoxide poisoning. People had different theories that were going on about this particular passing. And so it's very tragic, very, very sad. And immediately when I saw all this information popping up on the news, my spirits whispered in my ear, this is not due to natural causes. So someone had intentionally taken these people out. So no matter what people are saying, no matter what people are going to instill in our brains and make us think one thing, it is not that. These people were taken out one by one. So including the dog. So let's get into it, shall we? So first of all, Spirit had showed me as I was navigating through these energies between these people, I immediately was shown a third person. Spirit showed me the number 3. So I'm like, okay, so we have a marriage here. We have Betsy, who's a Sagittarius, the wife, and then we have Gene, who is an Aquarius. Okay. Now these two are relatively there's a huge difference in their age. So, but what I was seeing was a third person, as if maybe Betsy had a companion or a lover or just something going on here. And Spirit mentioned this over and over and over again. There's something suspicious about it. The other thing that they showed me is someone was driving to the house. Someone came over to the house. So it's and I feel like this sense of familiarity, like I've been here before, or I know the place, I know what's going on, or something odd about this. The other thing that I found really disturbing was when they're claiming right now that before I heard about this on the news, when I was officially navigating through the reading, Spirit had mentioned that there was something in the body that shouldn't have been there. So whether this is a poisoning or an infection, or if this is but here's the twist on this. Spirit said it was deliberate. So when they start showing me something deliberate, meaning it was forced upon them or it was planted to look like something that it really wasn't. So this is a very manipulated setup, okay? Then Spirit showed me contracts. I started seeing a stack of paperwork. Here's where it gets more interesting. Before I started this reading, I had my own readings with clients, and I saw Gene Hackman sitting on my couch in my living room, waiting for me to finish sessions, waiting for me to kind of wrap up my day to show me these documents. And it was a big stack of documents, and it looked like to me legal contracts or a legal contract. And he says, look into my royalties, look into my contract. And he was smiling. He had this very lovely smile on him. He looked very content, looked very healthy, looked younger than he looked in the most recent photos that they had shown on the internet, way younger. The way he looked in the movies, way back when. I think he did the movie Unforgiven and some other stuff. So anyway, so I thought that was interesting. He says, quote unquote, look into my contracts and my royalties. So I did. I started Googling and I went down the rabbit hole after I got off all my calls with my clients. And it says that he has royalty streams. And I think he's worth from what it said, $80 million. That's including everything with his estate and all this stuff. Now, this is where it gets even more weirder by the minute. It's like, where would be the motive for someone to just come in and take this person out? Well, I was told from my spirits that they had explained to me that Gene Hackman knew a lot of stuff. He wrote books, he was very expressive of things. He had some information on Hollywood, and I mean lots. Okay. He was also locked into some kind of contract due to the movies he was in, and they're old. These connections go deep and they thread out. So someone felt entitled to this. Someone knew that he was getting older, but someone also was worried about that he knew something, and he knew way too much of something because he has been in that industry. And he's talking too much because he's getting, he's got, supposedly he was diagnosed with he had Alzheimer's, and I don't think that the Alzheimer's is as bad as they made it seem.
He has dementia. That's what they said. So
Okay, well, that's the beginning stages before it goes
yes,
completely. Okay.
yes,
So yeah, because they're making it seem like he lost his mind, like he's gone. And I did, and Spirit goes, it's not as bad as they made it seem. So he's already talking. He's talking about something. Now, when you start losing your marbles because you have cognitive decline, you can start spouting off things just randomly. You just never know. So it's like I'm thinking to myself, okay, so Spirit's telling me it's not as big of a deal as they're making it, like he's totally gone. How they like flashed it on the news. They're like, it's total bullshit. Total fucking bullshit. Okay. He was very present and very coherent, but he was rambling more, talking more about things. Now, why they brought up this third party, this companion, this person, this friend, this lover, I have no idea. I just got a third party or some type of like love triangle. I'll just say that, okay? I don't know how deep it went, but I think this woman, just due to the vast like age difference, she needed some kind of companion, or she had a friend that was a little more than a friend. I don't know. But this person knows things, knows about what the house looks like, knows about where things are located, knows things. Now, this is what Spirit just slammed on me as I stack with the clues. Spirit says, mention the Epstein list. And here's what's wild. This all came out right when all this big show was going on with the Epstein list, and they were holding up the folders. Remember that? I forget what day that was. It was where they were saying they're going to expose the client list.
yeah. They brought
Right.
out the folders. That was like what, a week ago or 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, in February, and it was I think it was the new moon in Pisces. I think it was right around that time, and I was super busy when this all came up on the news. But I was like, oh my god! And Spirit says, don't believe everything that you see. And when I saw the binders being slashed on the screen, and they're like, look at this, like, yeah, it was like this big stunt with the news and everything. And Spirit says, don't like, don't go too deep with it. They're like, it's like a lot of flashy stuff, like just take it easy. I was like, okay. So I just didn't really like get too overwhelmed with it, what they were showing on the news, because Spirit told me not to, which gets weird because it's like, what are the odds of the two of these things happening on the same day? So then Spirit mentions look into flight logs or people in the area at the same, like big people, like elites, like people that were in town around the same time the shit was going on. And I'm thinking, well, who was in town? So I started Googling, like, who's in town? Like, who would be around in Santa Fe, New Mexico? Like, who would it be? Who could it possibly be? So immediately, I looked it up, and supposedly what they're saying, Bill Gates' private plane was in New Mexico the same day they found the bodies. You can't make this shit up. I thought, and here's and then I put two and two together. I went, wait a second. Then they're talking on the news about the Hunter virus. What is it called again? Hunter virus?
It's the hantavirus, yeah.
Hunter virus. If I'm okay. Well, I'm thinking, what are the odds of that? That they found this and supposedly in their bodies, or at least hers, and they're saying supposedly she died first, and then or no, wait. Yeah, she died first, and then he died like 10 days later, or like a week
Yes,
later, or something like
seven
that.
days later. That's what I
Well,
understand.
Bill Gates is the person that is he's well known for the vaccines, and he's well known talking about all these viruses. He's also well known about talking about mosquitoes that, are kind of like drones, or they release
They're
genetically modified that release things out in the air. So he's very like known for all this. And you know what I mean? Like he has all these connections. So I'm like, well, what are the odds of his private plane being in town in New Mexico the same day that these people's bodies were found? It's just like unbelievably weird. And to find such a strange virus in this woman's body, and supposedly them saying that this is what initially killed her. But this doesn't make sense either, because originally when the news came out, they claimed that they found her with, like, that she fell down, hit her head, and they found pills all over the floor, or like she was next to a bunch of open bottle pills. And it's like, and then I got to thinking, like, that's very strange. Why are there two different stories? So none of this is lining up. But what does make sense, um, is somebody has a deep interest in these royalty streams. Like this guy he's worth $80 million, and he's got
128 million from what I found, and he's made like according to the internet, $30 million within the last 5 years.
huh?
So it's all royalties. He hasn't made a film like in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is what's interesting. When they showed me this third party, this is like a companion, a person, a connection to this woman, to Betsy. And so I got to thinking, okay, well, there is a vast difference between the ages. Obviously, he was 95 years old. And so I feel like she had somebody that she was like comfortable with, as she was caretaking alongside Gene and handling all the stuff with Gene. And so I know that the children are going to obviously inherit some things, but these contracts were quite serious. Because the way he handed me this like stack of papers. So Spirit showed me this. This is the vision I had. I believe they murdered her first, and I believe they planted or made or put something in her to make it look like it was that, but it really wasn't. And then Spirit says they shocked their hearts. So they made everything stop. They kept him alive because they were talking to him, cornering him, trying to keep the boss babe out of the way, which is the wife, and making sure that they can nestle through all his things, look through his documents and papers. Somebody was in there scrounging around. They also threatened who these people are. They're people in black suits. They look like they're finely dressed. They remind me of government based type dressed people, or that's the vibe I got. Okay. And they were nestling through all Gene Hackman's like filing cabinets, his safe. They were looking through everything. And they cornered this old, him in such a fragile state to make sure that they can find things and get things. So this was pretty disturbing what I saw. And they purposely did that to make him vulnerable so they can get some information, change some things. And you know that there is this old saying, you're worth more dead than you are alive. And they didn't want the woman to get it. They didn't want the wife to receive anything. And I'm wondering if there's an old contract, something old, something like that goes way back, because Gene has had history in Hollywood for a very long time. And it's like they feel entitled to something, they feel somebody wanted to change something. There's a third party involved. Now, where this person comes in, I don't know. Like lover, friend, companion. And here's the thing, someone shut him up, or someone was trying to get to him to get to these two people. And like they were being stalked, or they were being like surveillance for at least weeks and weeks upon this. Like this was a pretty calculated thing. And now Spirit mentioned the Epstein list. And I looked up some information around the area where he lives. And 50 miles away from where he lives is called the Zorro Ranch, which is an Epstein place. Like this is like a home or a place where it's all connected to all these wackadoo sickos, right? So I'm like, holy smokes. So I feel this is definitely not natural. I feel like this virus, or whatever they're claiming this to be, was somehow planted. And I'm wondering, I thought, well, maybe someone gave this dude a call, meaning Bill Gates, and said, can you get some, we got to make it look like something. So can you get your hands on this virus and we'll kind of plant it there and it'll look like that. Or we'll say this. But whatever they're saying in the news is not matching. And I do know, and I can claim, just from what Spirit showed me and just what they've been talking about, is in the visions that I'm getting, okay, was there something in the body that shouldn't have been there. And I feel like they electrically shock them. Kind of reminds me of some kind of like dart gun that just goes, doot, and everything stops. Like all of a sudden they're shocked. And I believe they did it to the dog too. So it's like 1, 2, and 3. But they waited on him because they wanted to get some information. They wanted to know where things were. They wanted to know where the papers are. And he has information about something he was saying or talking about or writing about, where it's like he could expose somebody. He could say, hey, these people tried to like corner me, or they were trying to take my money away from me. So they got upset and wanted to snuff her out. And I feel like, not saying this lover or friend or companion that she was connected to, okay, was involved that did this, but I can say there's a third party that kind of knew or sort of had some awareness of what was going on because they were threatened. Like, you better shut up, like, don't say anything. And there's nothing about this that's natural at all, especially for like the type of royalty streams he's getting. It's like there's something that they wanted to make sure. It's like, in other words, what I'm hearing, he's worth more dead than he is alive. And they didn't want this woman to kind of take over anything. Allegedly, as everyone says. So this is for entertainment purposes only. Do with the messages what you will. But I cannot say, and Spirit will not close this reading and say, yes, this is a natural No. They planted that on the body, in the body. They did something to make it look like it something else, when in fact it wasn't. And I do feel like something happened to her head. I know that they're claiming there's no blunt force trauma, or they're saying this, but Spirit's like, nope, something happened, like where she hit her head, or could have been the fall, it could have been something. But they definitely were surveillance. Somebody drove to the house, like somebody was coming to the house, and I feel like there's this dart type device. It's a heart stopper machine. It's like something it does to like stop the heart. And it gave me the same vibe as Chester Bennington. Like somebody tased him before they choked him out, and then they said, oh, he committed suicide and he was drunk and he hung himself. It's like, no, he didn't. Shut up. It's so ridiculous what they say, and don't listen to it. I'm laughing because it's like, when I listen to it, see, lies have a certain frequency, and so does guilt. There's certain energies that come with lies. And when the truth is being spoken, the frequency gets raised and everything lifts up. It's not heavy. Lies have like a frequency. So when I hear it on the news, Spirit goes, no, no, no. But not only that, I feel it. And Spirit's like, there's something wrong with this. And I listen to them and I get the audio, and then I start getting the visions. So again, like Gene Hackman, his soul like came by to stop by to show me he's okay and that he was willing to show me these documents. He looked very youthful, looked very young, and he knew I was going to be talking about him today. And he's a very lovely person, at least like the energy I'm picking up on from his soul. I don't think I don't know how deep he went into the sickness of Hollywood. I don't know how deep the rabbit hole goes. I don't know what he knows, but I do know he knew something. And I'm seeing writing, I'm seeing notes, and I hear him talking about something. And I think they were worried that he'd get some loose lips. Like, I'm going to tell my story before I pass. Like, he knows he's getting older, and they wanted him to tell his story or talk about something before he loses his memory, and talk about what happened and get this out, like a documentary or a book, or like, let's express this. Or someone wanted to write it for him, like the wife or something like this. But it's also about contracts, and it's about these movies and the royalties and the money. Like, don't be fooled by all this. And I do feel like something was intentionally planted there in her body, to make it look like something it wasn't. But then when you do the autopsy, it shows that it was, even though it was planted there. Now, I'm curious if they had some cameras, which most people these days do, the rich people. I'm feeling like surveillance is being concealed, it's being hidden. And the fact that they started off by saying they found her with pills on the floor, and now they're changing the story and it's something different. It already smells like suspicious stuff, guilt, all that. It was a matter of time until they found the bodies. Um, but someone had a motive here, and it wasn't just about like the Epstein list. It was also about money and contracts in Hollywood. And I do believe that there was a third party, and I will confirm that she might have been talking, kind of been like a companion or a friend, and maybe they thought they were, you know, they liked each other a little bit more than friends. I don't know, but it just kind of something felt a little bit like that. I'm just saying. But it just seems like way too coincidental that all these things, like, Bill Gates's private plane was in town around the same time they found the bodies, and then the Epstein list reveal, and then this big to-do on the news, and then the new moon in Pisces. What's all about the darker side of Pisces is self-deception, and Spirit says, don't believe everything that you see. Don't believe everything that you're hearing, meaning it's like a mirage. Well, Pisces energy is about cinema, Hollywood, and the movies. Okay. So it kind of made me think, oh, this goes deep. Look into it. And I did. I did exactly what Spirit told me to do. And they said, we cannot close, and said, this is natural causes. This is definitely like these people were taken out, including the dog. For sure. I mean, they were saying that the dog was in the cage and couldn't get out, so it was stuck. I just feel like they were put there. The dog was put in there to make it look like something it wasn't. So they were probably, or she at least, was deliberately poisoned. And I do feel like something shocked his heart or shocked her heart to make sure it was done, including the dog. And this is the feeling I had because it reminded me of the Chester Bennington thing, where I feel like somebody electrocuted me. Kind of feels like a taser or like a dart gun. And then they make you drop and pass out, and then they can do whatever they want to you, right? They can drag you across the floor and plant it, make your arm flop over, and you look like you're dead. Because I didn't get the vibe that this was a hot shot. Like, they hot shotted me and I passed out, just like they did to Kurt Cobain. They hot shotted him. They wheelbarrowed his body into the greenhouse, and then they took an elongated shotgun and blew his brains out. He couldn't even lift a hand with under that kind of influence, according to the toxicology report, of that much heroin in his body. It was all a setup. Again, worth more dead than alive. It was all a setup. And this is what this industry does. They raise you up and then they knock you down, then they take all your money and then they make more money off of you when you're dead. So this is what I got. Do with the messages what you will, my friends. But this is my reading on Gene Hackman and his wife and the dog, and may he rest in peace. But this is what I got so far. Thank you all for listening to Conspiracies podcast. My name is April. Once again, my spirits and I together, we are called Austrae Astoundance. Thank you so much.